Love. Love is weird. It's this consistent figure in our lives as society and media capture this human phenomenon. Love is the quintessential human emotion, right? When people think of what makes us human, they often think about compassion and our ability to relate and care for others in a way that isn't primitive. However, on the other side of that coin is another human experience that I think equally pinpoints what makes us human: the desire for meaning. The conscious, everyday awareness of our existence and its ultimate end, the curse of a painful certainty that everything we feel and know and have felt or have known will cease to exist, provokes us to search for meaning as a way to cope. We try to make ourselves feel important so that we don't feel like we wasted our time. And this is where a junction is formed. Love and a desire for meaning are basically the pinnacles of the human experience, and this is why stories that challenge the idea of mortality and existence and meaning are the perfect backdrops to the greatest love stories. These films take two very human things and mesh them together to create magic. And two movies that perfectly capture that magic are Palm Springs and Seeking a Friend for the End of the World. Greetings and salutations, friends. My name is Ariana, and the day that I'm filming this, I have 101 subscribers. And I just want to say thank you so much to everyone for helping my channel grow and caring about my content. I really appreciate it, and thank you so much. So I have watched Palm Springs 4 times since its release. If you don't know, it's another reincarnation of the Groundhog Day trope where every day is the same day over and over again. And though that repetitive experience can grow old, rewatching Palm Springs does not. One of the main issues I was worried would arise in Palm Springs was how it dealt with the idea of love and how love blossoms and grows. Palm Springs centers around Niles, a guy who has been stuck in this endless loop on his girlfriend's friend's wedding day and has completely surrendered to the circumstance. But one night, when hooking up with the bride's sister Sarah, Niles accidentally leads her to the cave that will doom her to experience the same fate as him, pushing them to be stuck together for, as far as we know, eternity. So Palm Springs reminded me a lot of one of my favorite movies, Seeking a Friend for the End of the World. And what I noticed about these two movies is that both of them examine love and loneliness as they question the meaning of life and existence, and not in some pretentious or melodramatic way, but rather in a tender and comedic way that is vitally connected to the narrative and the plot, and ultimately, the love story. You see, one of my biggest pet peeves in film is when a character, typically the man, says he loves the female character when he obviously doesn't, either because not much time has passed in the film, or because the movie just didn't show enough of this relationship to convince me it could be love. And the latter is what I worried Palm Springs would do. It takes Niles, a guy who's lacked emotional connection with anyone or anything for God knows how long, and thrusts him into a situation with Sarah that leads him to believe he is in love with her. And what I think is so brilliant about Palm Springs is how the narrative confronts this as Sarah responds to Niles' declaration of love with confusion. She asks him, "How can you even know that? I'm literally the only human being stuck in here with you." Sarah, as well as the film, challenges this idea of what love looks like, specifically what love feels like for each partner involved and how that can differ. To elaborate, let's take a closer look at the leading ladies of the two aforementioned films, Sarah in Palm Springs and Penny in Seeking a Friend for the End of the World. Before I get into how Sarah loves in the film, I want to speak about how she is in the film, who she is, and how that will explain why she loves the way she does and how Niles loves differently. I was skeptical of Sarah at the beginning. I wasn't entirely sure of her sudden vulnerability with Niles. However, it's later in the film that you realize Niles has crafted the perfect conversation with her. He figured her out, and he realized that as long as he bailed her out of the speech she is expected to give as maid of honor, she was going to hook up with him. I really appreciate how Sarah's flaws are written, and how her behavior in the third act is foreshadowed. You see, at first glance, you think Niles being able to get Sarah to open up was like a puppet with strings, that he manipulates her to share with him that she is seen as a liability to her family, and thus they can bond and hook up. But it's more than that. You see, Sarah only shares this information with Niles after she sees that he is hurt to watch his girlfriend cheat on him at the wedding, and she begins her vulnerable dialogue with the sentence, "If it makes you feel any better." A defining trait the film establishes with Sarah is that unlike Niles, she cares. She feels. And in this moment, she feels for him and opens up to connect with him, to connect with someone who is hurting. And this foreshadows the catalyst of the film, where Sarah gets stuck in the loop. After Niles is shot with an arrow by another companion he trapped in the loop, Roy, he begs Sarah to not follow him into the cave. But she does. And later on in the film, when the two finally erupt into a huge argument, Niles assigns blame by saying he warned her and that her stubbornness and independence are what got her into this. But Sarah snaps back with, I followed you into that cave because I liked you and someone was trying to hurt you, because I give a shit, which is something you clearly know nothing about. Sarah is not just a lonely character who has descended into apathy like Niles. She cares independently of any strings Niles tries to pull. The script further addresses her independence and eventual arc of confrontation through another emotional moment, in which Niles' detachment from feeling is addressed when he says everything he feels just drifts away. Sarah again opens up to him in this situation. When Niles claims the past does not matter, Sarah disagrees by sharing the story of her failed marriage. She says, I knew it wasn't going to work. I knew it wasn't going to work out the moment I said yes. I knew it wasn't going to work out when I moved to Austin for him. I knew it wasn't going to work out as I walked down the aisle, but I went through with it, and it didn't work out. Ignoring that would make me destined to repeat it. Sarah is admitting her submission, her willingness in lacking control and letting life happen to her in all the wrong ways. And this is the exact scene that explains why later in the film, she chooses to leave Niles to figure out how to escape this loop on her own. An idea Niles has totally abandoned. With exhausted determination in her voice, she tells Niles, I'm getting out of this day. And with that, we get a montage of her routine of learning quantum physics, relentlessly looking for the answer, fighting to have control, and act on her feelings. Unlike what she did with her past marriage. This is important as we come to find out that the night before the wedding, Sarah slept with her sister's groom. And this is a negative example of lashing out to have any kind of control when you feel hopeless or lonely. Sarah proves throughout the film that she needs to operate outside of her association with a man, whether it be her ex-husband, her sister's groom, or Niles himself. She proves that her compassion is not manipulated but natural, and that she is also flawed and selfish and seeks validation and control in the wrong ways. This is why I find it so important that she is the one to figure out how to escape all on her own. Her independence and arc are what allow for not only the resolution, but the love story. Without Sarah, Niles would have never escaped. Without Sarah, Niles would have never confronted the man whose life he fucked up. Without Sarah, Niles would have never learned how to feel again. And without Sarah, Niles says he can't survive in the scene before she's about to blow herself up in the hopes of escaping the time loop. And what does Sarah say in return? I can survive just fine without you, you know. But there's a chance that this life can be a little less mundane with you in it. And later, before they attempt their escape, she finally says that she loves him too. Sarah loves realistically, while Niles loves emotionally. He loves the way a person stuck without any emotional stimulation loves, recklessly and quickly, desperately. Sarah loves like someone who sees through the bullshit, knowing a life without meaning or goals or change is not sustainable. Sarah and Niles love in different ways because that's how a lot of relationships are. Not everybody loves in the same way. Sarah not needing Niles to survive does not mean she doesn't love him. It just means she's learned to love and forgive herself and acknowledge where she has control in her own life as an independent person. She is no longer lonely being alone, but rather okay with being alone and choosing to be with Niles instead. And Niles needing Sarah does not invalidate his love for her, as she has taught him how to not, as he described it, have fleeting feelings, but rather ones that he proudly grasps onto. And that's why he needs to be the one to declare his love, and she needs to be the one to accept it. But this isn't some simple love story, as the love is only able to prosper and function because of the time loop. It isn't a simple tale of another man who can't emotionally commit, but rather of a man who has become the product of his environment. Niles forgot how to feel because of the circumstance, and thus came to the conclusion that life was meaningless, because it was in that environment. And this allows for such a powerful, yet not cliche or typical love story. And Sarah needs to be put in a situation of endless reminders of her mistakes and flaws and fears in order to change. And in that final scene, she herself presses the button that propels the two lovers into a new world and a new beginning. It's also worth mentioning that Cristin Milioti absolutely dazzles in this movie. Her charisma, her line delivery, her comedy, and her beauty is present in every second of every scene she is in. She's compelling and impossible to ignore. So, who is Penny, and why does she matter in Seeking a Friend for the End of the World? A film about two neighbors, Dodge and Penny, who officially meet 2 weeks before the world is set to end at the hands of an asteroid plummeting towards Earth. Love is at the forefront of this apocalyptic tale, similarly to Palm Springs. It deals with themes of loneliness while confronting mortality and meaning. The two characters meet and Penny hands Dodge the mail that was meant for him but delivered to her. And in that stack is a letter from Dodge's high school sweetheart. The two neighbors then decide to embark on a journey to find Dodge's sweetheart after he promises Penny that he can get her to a man with a plane and fly her back to England to be with her family. Penny's relationship with love and romance is a defining trait of her personality and arc. When we meet Penny, she has just gotten into a fight with her now ex-boyfriend and is outside Dodge's window crying. She criticizes herself for choosing a man over catching a plane to be with her family as the world is about to end, a pattern she is very used to and ashamed of, saying that even during the apocalypse, she is 15 minutes late. As the movie progresses, we learn more about Penny and how her love for people and humanity fuels everything she does and has done and believes in. When Penny's car runs out of gas and Dodge descends into hopelessness, Penny spots a car and holds her hand out for a ride. When Dodge tells her she doesn't have to waste her last days helping him, she retorts that these are not her last days, leading Dodge to call her a survivalist, to which Penny says,
"No, I'm not a survivalist. I'm an optimist."
This is brilliantly revisited later in the film when Penny takes Dodge to her ex-boyfriend's house, knowing he is a survivalist with a bunker and cars they can use. Her ex, Spec, immediately flirts with her, and when he talks to Dodge in private, he tells him, "Let me tell you something about that girl. She may be a romantic on the outside, but on the inside, she's all survivor, and she knows her best chance of survival is sitting right here." This is the direct opposite of everything Penny tells us about herself in the film, and exemplifies her individuality and how her relationship with romance is not a mask or a game, but her true self. Her positivity is what drives the story forward. But I think one line that captures Penny's relationship with romance and optimism is when she categorizes herself as a recovering serial monogamist. She says she is happy to finally be done with relationships, and this is already a step in her character's direction of finding a balance between love and identity. Penny feels guilty for the choices she has made in her love life, when really they are symptoms of her yearning and desire for something good, which is not something she has to be ashamed of. Everything about Penny's character is crystallized when Dodge asks her about her life, and Penny talks about her parents' relationship with one another. She says, "You've never seen two people more in love. I think that's the reason I can't settle for anything less than amazing. I'm the result of two romantics getting together. I'm totally screwed." Penny is not some quirky love interest, but rather someone who was raised with the image of a happy and loving relationship and aspired to reach that. And when she failed at it, she blamed herself and utilized the respect she had for her family and parents as a weapon against herself and her choices. I think this scene is beautiful and the dialogue is immaculate as the conversation leads into vinyl records. Penny is established to have a deep fondness for vinyl records as they are the only things she brings with her when she and Dodge escape a riot occurring outside their home. When Dodge begins to ask Penny about her life, the song "This Guy Is in Love With You" begins to play on a record in the background. And after Penny says the line about her parents being romantics, she notices the song is playing and says this was the first record she ever had, stolen from her father. With this, Penny talks about how she loves records, stating as Dodge gazes at her fondly, they really need to be taken care of, as they are delicate and can get wrecked so easily. You really have to love it, she says. Vinyl records act as a symbol of love in the film, as Penny is deeply attached to both love and records. Love and relationships are also delicate, can also get wrecked so easily, and you really have to care and want to make it work for it to work. The film showcases this through Dodge's failed marriage and Penny's failed relationship, and I believe the metaphor of vinyl and love is perfectly wrapped up as Penny finishes the conversation about records. The last thing she says about records weaves the conversation back into her parents, as she says they have an amazing cherry wood turntable, which perfectly symbolizes their beautiful and romantic relationship that Penny admires. The conversation continues with Penny claiming she is happy to not have to deal with relationships anymore. But Penny is not giving up on love. She is giving up on the societal expectations of love. She's saying she is disappointed in her experiences with love, and that is why her connection with Dodge is different and special. It was a love that grew out of a strange circumstance. It had no expectations or a standard it needed to meet. It just happened, and it didn't involve Penny having to be anyone except herself. Dodge reassures Penny that maybe she just hasn't met the right person yet, and the two stare at each other before Penny says Dodge is a really nice person. And it's in this moment that the two realize they are in love with each other, and that they have found what they have always wanted in each other without even trying. The two look at each other for a long time, and the record still playing "This Guy Is in Love With You" begins to skip and repeat the same sound once again connecting records with romance. And this is why, the next day, Dodge leaves a note for his sweetheart and chooses to be with Penny instead. At the end of the film, Dodge puts Penny on a plane to see her family and heads back to his apartment to be alone as the world ends. And he listens to her records, reinforcing his love for her. But then, later, Penny walks in and asks, "How could you let me go?" The two lay in bed together as the asteroid is heading toward them. Dodge asks, "What about your parents?" And Penny says, "They're romantics, they'll understand. And besides, they have each other. I just want to be with you." In the end, Penny no longer blames herself for believing in the ideals her parents supported all along. She does what she has always done and follows her heart, choosing to be with Dodge because, as she says, she couldn't live without him, no matter how long. Penny needed to endure all the heartbreak and disappointments in order to know that Dodge was the person she was supposed to be with at this point in time. And Dodge needed the same thing. As he says, it had to happen now. And she is not wrong or making a mistake or 15 minutes too late. She is right on time, right where she needs to be. And the film ends with a shot of her face, smiling as the screen fades to white. Keira Knightley captures a genuine quirkiness with Penny that remains refreshing and charming. She emotes so well, whether it be joy or sadness or guilt, and she gives Penny this sweetness yet aloofness that is so captivating. I've said it before and I'll say it again, I live and breathe for Keira Knightley. One element of Seeking a Friend that I feel captures love so beautifully is the gaze of love. Throughout the film, Penny and Dodge gaze at each other without the other one noticing. However, the context of these gazes is what stands out. We see Dodge smile and watch Penny as she is on the phone with her family. She is crying and laughing and filled with joy as she connects with her family who she feels she abandoned. Later on in the film, Penny watches Dodge as he plays a harmonica with his estranged father, whom he hadn't seen in about 25 years. He has let go of his pain and sits enjoying a tender moment with his father. The two scenes parallel each other as they feature a gaze of love that revolves around familial intimacy. This is where the film's theme of love achieves a deeper sense of maturity, as the film categorizes love as not some cliche film trope, but a complex feeling of care that is not bound to solely romance. It showcases the idea that love is the most human activity we can engage with, and that we should pursue it in all its forms. And this is only further reinforced through the backdrop of the end of the world, as people want to latch onto the earth and their attachments to it. And our greatest attachment to the earth and living is loving people. This is what makes Penny and Dodge's love story so special, as they have come to learn about each other, their past, their heartbreaks, their mistakes, their flaws, while realizing that in a time of transient existence and certain death, we must hold on to the things, the people, that make us feel seen and less alone, the people that are there to gaze and witness and champion our special moments. I don't know if I've said it blatantly on this channel yet, but I love women, and studying women in film is an enormous passion of mine. And that is why I was so drawn to Sarah and Penny in their individual roles. But after watching Palm Springs and realizing Seeking a Friend would be the perfect double feature, watch Seeking a Friend after Palm Springs, I found myself fixating on the two female characters and how they expressed themselves and their affection. Both women are flaws and have made mistakes when it comes to sexual or romantic relationships. And yet, both exhibit the agency required for change and a healthy romantic partnership. It's also really cool that both women initiate the sex with the male characters in the film. Sarah and Penny both advance the story forward in meaningful ways while still having the dimension to be shitty and funny and attractive. And this is why I wanted to write solely about them and their magic. Both Palm Springs and Seeking a Friend for the End of the World capture love in the midst of supposed meaninglessness. In the hopelessness of mortality and uncertainty, love can still grow and save us from our apathy and detachment. Humans cling to each other in times of crisis because we are naturally lonely creatures, and what's more lonely than being stuck in a time loop by yourself, or dying alone? These films teach us that love is worth experiencing, even in the worst of circumstances, because at the end of the day, human beings thrive on meaning and love, and when that meaning is threatened or even gone, love is still present.